Welcome everyone to another mod spotlight, and today we're gonna have a look at Botania by Vazkii on the Minecraft forums. This mod is incredibly extensive, dealing with plants and magic, so let's not waste any more time and get right into it. To get yourself started, it is wise to craft yourself the in-game guide, which will teach you about the basics and mechanics involved in this mod. Besides of being a pool of knowledge about the mod, you will also be able to shift right-click any Botanica related blocks to open up their entries in the book. With that out of the way, let's have a look at our surroundings. Within the Minecraft world, we'll be able to find a vast variety of flora in all 16 colors. Picking these flowers and putting them into a crafting grid will yield you mystical petals, which are required for other recipes. Right-clicking a petal will bury it, having it emit particle effects. Furthermore, you can crush petals into floral powder using a pestle and a mortar, which then can be used just like your standard Minecraft dyes. Combining floral powder with bone meal will create a new fertilizer, which also grows a small amount of mystical flowers, in case you ever want to farm them. Now that we know about these flowers, it's time to dive into the magical stuff. Crafting a petal apothecary and providing it with water will, when mystical petals are thrown at it, release energy. Throwing in some seeds will finalize this process. Shift right click to remove the last item thrown in and toss in a bunch of vines to give the block an overgrown visual. We'll be making use of this apothecary in just a minute. Okay, let's have a look at a flower in particular. The pure daisy is the most basic but also the most important flower to gather. It will purify any adjacent wood and stone blocks into their counterparts, the living wood and the living rock, which again can be used for further crafting. Next up, runes play an extremely important role in Botanica. In order to create runes, you'll require a runic altar to throw ingredients into. To process, you'll need a mana spreader and a wand of the forest with a right click. Once the altar has received enough mana, you may drop a piece of living rock on top of it and use the wand on it again to collect your rune. Currently, there's a total of 16 runes in this mod. Basic runes named after the 4 elements, intermediate runes named after the 4 seasons, and advanced runes named after the 7 deadly sins. And finally, there's a separate rune of mana as well. Now, since we're talking about runes and magic, let's check out how mana is implemented in this mod. To generate mana, you're gonna need generating flowers, utilizing mana spreaders to disperse the produce and store them into mana pools. Tossing in certain resources such as iron ingots or mystical petals into the mana pool will cause them to get infused with mana. Tossing in any colored floral powder will cause the pool to switch its color. The mana pool is also used to create mana steel, mana pearls and mana diamonds, mana petals and mana cookies, useful in other recipes and mechanics. Next up, there's a metal called Terra Steel in this mod. In order to create it, you'll have to toss a mana steel ingot, a mana pearl and a mana diamond on top of an active beacon while an at least half full mana pool is nearby. That's a tough order, but said process will give you a single Terra Steel ingot, which again may be used in various other recipes. Time to have a look at some contraptions within this mod. The mana detector, for instance, is the device you'll need to detect mana bursts in your system and will make the block emit a redstone signal. Also, the mana distributor is especially useful in a multi-mana pool setup. It will evenly distribute all mana contained in adjacent pools. Now, in order to upgrade your mana bursts and mana spreaders, you may craft various lenses. You can dye them in all 16 colors or combine them with a mana pearl for a rainbow lens in order to create different visual effects. Furthermore, you can combine different lenses and effects together with a slime ball in the hopes of creating a completely new lens while keeping all of the effects applied to the individual lenses. For instance, you can create a velocity lens which will increase the speed at which a mana burst travels, but will also carry less mana with each burst. Or the potency lens, which will double the amount of mana bursts can carry, but the burst will also become a lot slower. The resistance lens on the other side will significantly increase the amount of time the mana burst can go without starting to lose mana on the way. Or the bounce lens will allow mana to bounce off walls instead of dissipating on collision. Heck, you can even create a damaging lens which charges the mana burst with the power to damage any living beings it comes across, draining its own mana while doing so. Or you can craft the entropic lens to imbue the mana burst with enough energy to form explosions on collisions. What a beautiful process. There are many more lenses for you to check out and combine to create your personal and individual system, all found in the in-game guide mentioned in the beginning. Next up, the Mana Void might be useful in certain situations. It will get rid of all mana shot into its direction. Also, while placed beneath the mana pool, it will dispose of all excess mana, making the mana pool always able to accept mana. Now, if you ever feel the need of carrying your mana around, the Mana Tablet is your solution. Tossing them on top of a mana pool will allow you to transfer mana between them. Shift right-clicking with the Wand of the Forest will change in which direction the mana flows. Finally, you can also regulate mana spreaders by combining them with a piece of redstone, making them only burst out mana when prompted by a redstone signal. Okay, so now we know a lot about the basics of this mod already, so let's dive a little deeper by having a look at the functional flowers. These plants will drain mana from a nearby mana pool into themselves in order to perform their given task. It's worth to note that some flowers utilize a redstone root in their creation, which will make their effects able to be toggled with a redstone signal. Functional flowers include the Agricarnation, which will turn mana into a type of natural fertilizer, causing nearby plant life to grow faster. The Bellthorn, which utilizes mana to slowly inflict harm on living beings around it. The Clayconia, which moistens nearby sand, turning it into clay. The Daffodil, which pushes any items in front of it. The Dreadthorn, which will only hurt adult animals and nothing else. The Exoflame, which will fuel any furnaces nearby. The Fallen Canade, which will apply regeneration effects to nearby players. The Haze Dream, which will make mobs turn against each other. The Hopperhawk, which will pick up items around it and put them into an adjacent inventory. The Hyacinthus, which will poison nearby mobs. And finally the Jaded Amaranthus, which will attempt to grow any mystical flowers in free spots. Now, to make this whole concept useful, we of course have to find a way to produce mana in the first place. This is done with generating flowers, which will actively and passively produce mana and transfer it over to the nearest mana spreader. The most basic generating flower is the Daybloom, which simply generates mana while in sunlight. Its counterpart is the Nightshade, which will do so during night times. The Endoflame on the other side will absorb any combustible items or blocks nearby and burn through them to produce the mana. Next up, the Entropinium will absorb the blast wave of an exploding TNT block, nullifying any possible damage but transforming it into pure mana. The Hydroangeus on the other side will suck up any still water in a 3x3 area around it, resulting in mana production. The Kekimerus is a curious little plant eating up any cake nearby in order to produce the mana you want. The Munchdew plant will consume any leaves nearby to do the production, while the Rose Arcana will absorb a player's experience points to turn them into mana. And finally, the most powerful of them all is the Thermalily, which works similarly to the Hydrogeneus, but using lava instead. Okay, so now we've got to know all the plants included in this mod, but guys, there's more. For instance, it's possible to craft living wood to create obtrusive platforms that only have a physical body when you stand on top of it and aren't sneaking. Otherwise, it's like it's not there, and mana beams may travel through it without any issues. Furthermore, you can camouflage this block as any other simple block you like by right-clicking with it. Its counterpart is the spectral platform, which will allow anything to fall through if you're feeling particularly evil today. But with all these plants, obviously we also want to do some alchemy, so let's craft an alchemy catalyst and place it inside the mana pool to allow it to perform alchemy. Once activated, you'll find yourself able to perform alchemy on dozens of items, for instance to convert rotten flesh to leather, change from one block type to another variant of the same type, snow into ice block, flint into gunpowder, book and quill into name tags, redstone into glowstone and vice versa, and much more. A great system. A slightly different catalyst may also be used for conjuration purposes. Just like before, using up your mana, you'll be able to multiply redstone, glowstone, nether quartz, coal, snowballs, netherrack, soul sand and gravel. But that's not all by far, guys. There's been a complete new enchanting system created in this mod, the Mana Enchanter. To construct one, you'll need 17 obsidian blocks, 10 mystical flowers and 6 mana pylons, as well as a lapis lazuli block. Start by making an obsidian structure like this, with 6 mana pylons arranged as shown. Beneath the pylons and in the center, place your flowers. Finally, the lapis lazuli block goes in the very center. All you need to do now is use your wand of the forest and the enchanter should get into place. Now to enchant, just right click the item to enchant inside it and drop enchanted books inside the circle around it. Depending on the enchantments you wish to apply, you'll need more or less mana, either provided with a mana pool or mana bursts. As a little side note, mana pylons can also be used to drastically increase the effects of allowing high level enchants in combination with normal enchanting tables. Just 2 of these pylons are enough to reach level 30. Okay, let's head on to some more random stuff for a change. The Eye of the Ancients, for instance, will, by attaching a comparator next to it, detect just how many animals it can find around it within a 6 blocks radius. Next random item is the Open Crate. It will accept any items inserted through hoppers, pipes or any other means of insertion and let them drop below it. Providing a redstone signal to the crate will have the effect that dropped items will prevail longer before eaten up by flowers around it. Useful in certain situations might be the spreader turntables, which allow you to turn your mana spreaders around when no redstone signal is applied. To change the speed of the turntable, you may right-click it with your wand or shift right-click to invert the direction. If you ever feel like clearing out tall grass with style, use the Horn of the Wild to cause any nearby vegetation to harvest itself, leaving behind any drops they might give. Similarly, you can use the Drum of the Wild to do said job, but contrary to the Horn, it is a placeable block instead of a handheld item. If you don't feel like using mana spreaders all over the place, you can also use the handheld Mana Blaster to do the mana bursts manually with an internal capacity. Worth to note is that lenses will also work with this device. Next up, there's also a bunch of rods you might be interested in. The Rod of Bifrost, for instance, is capable at the cost of some mana to create a rainbow bridge in the direction you're looking. I shall pass! Furthermore, the Rod of the Hells, which you can use on the ground to create a circle of fire. Or you can use the Rod of the Lands to create dirt blocks below. Or use the Rod of the Seas to create water source blocks or refill the Petal Apothecary. And finally, the Rod of the Skies, which has the ability to propel you in the air. What a fun rod collection. But this mod comes yet with more. You can create various armor and tool sets using special ingots such as the Mana Steel equipment, which in simple terms will, instead of taking damage, use up a slight amount of mana you're carrying around with you, for instance in the mana tablet. More interesting though is the Elementium equipment, which also has the ability to drain mana to prevent damage, but also has some special effects to it. When hit, the armor items have a chance to spawn a pixie that will assist you in battle, where the chance increases with each additional piece of armor. Now specifically, the pickaxe will destroy cobblestone, dirt, netherrack and other mundane materials, leaving behind only the ores and fine resources. The shovel will, in case the block is affected by gravity, dig all the same blocks above and below, eliminating falling gravel and sand while mining. The axe will double its effect as a weapon when used as a finishing blow on a zombie, skeleton, creeper or another player, giving you a chance of decapitating them, leaving their head or skull behind. The Elementium shears can be used to charge just like a bow in order to shear all nearby sheep in quite a pace. Finally, the Elementium sword will increase the chance of a pixie to spawn and will additionally increase their strength. Finally, you can also craft a bucket using these ingots. Whatever goes inside this bucket will vanish into thin air, making this a useful cleanup tool. Next up, if you feel like moving a monster spawner, you may also use the life aggregator. Using it on a spawner you found and releasing it somewhere else will rematerialize the spawner in your desired location. Note that once used, the life aggregator will shatter into pieces. So let's have a brief look at some different equipment you may want to wear, such as trinkets or charms. To equip them, you can by default use the B key to fill your amulet slot, your belt and your 2 ring slots. Now there's tons of equipment to choose from, such as the Charm of the Diva, which will give you the ability to have any attacked mob follow your will and even attack other mobs. Or there's the Ring of the Core Data, which will allow you to swim like a fish. Or the Ring of the Magnetization, to magnetize nearby items. Or the Band of Mana, to carry around some additional mana, and much more. Okay, that's it, right? No, it's not. Let's check out the mod's Portal to Alfheim. To create the portal to the elves, you'll need 8 living wood blocks, 3 glimmering living wood blocks, 1 elven gateway core, 2 mana pools and 2 natura pylons. Create a frame out of living wood just like this, add the glimmering living wood in the gaps and place the elven gateway core in the bottom slot. The mana pools go 3 blocks diagonally from the center block, and finally the natura pylons go on top of the mana pools. Now right click the core with a wand of the forest, and if sufficient mana is provided, it will open up a portal. Worth to note is that such a connection is not strong enough to support human travel, but it is to let items pass. Sharing our knowledge of the world might be a wise thing to do in this scenario. In other words, with this portal you've established a trade route between the elven world and your own. With this system you can trade living wood into dream wood, which can be turned into various decorative blocks. Here you can also trade mana steel for the precious elementium metal. You can trade mana pearls with pixie dust, mana diamonds with dragon stones, and finally you can trade nether quartz for elven quartz. Guys, as you can see, I can't finish spotlighting this mod, there's just so much in it. Decorate your blocks using seeds, frame your bricks to give them different looks, combine nether quartz with substances such as coal to give them different looks, create blaze quartz, lavender quartz or redstone quartz for additional options. Heck, with this mod, dispensers will now also be able to plant any seeds, potatoes, carrots and even nether wart. Dispensers will also be able to use the wand of the forest instead of the player for tasks such as triggering a runic altar. With the unstable cubes, I like to finish my spotlight at this point. Though I covered most of what's in this mod, there's a lot of details I left out, rendering this mod one of the biggest I've ever reviewed. Thank you so much for watching. If I helped you finding your way in this mod, please consider dropping a like, and other than that, I hope I'm gonna catch you the next time.